Just when you thought Gun Media was down for the count, never again to make another game, at least not an online multiplayer title concerning a popular horror IP, they fucking do! As many of you will remember, with the wounds still fresh in mind, Gun Media originally set out with horror effects legend Tom Savini to create a title that would act as a tribute to the 80s slasher genre in game form. This project eventually turned into their popular asymmetrical online multiplayer adaptation of the hit horror series Friday the 13th, only later to be slow choked to death by a never-ending lawsuit between F-13 creators Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham. This lawsuit would cease all further developments, putting an indefinite hold on all future content, including the highly anticipated Uber Jason and the Grendel space station map. The developers would officially shut down the game's servers in November of 2020, leaving the only option for online play through peer-to-peer matchmaking. Surely a victory for premarital sex-having teenage camp counselors everywhere. But just when you thought it was over,
the buzz is back.
Hey dudes and dudettes, I'm Derek with GameSomniac, and today we're going to take a look at Gun Media's latest project,
The Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Now allow me just a moment to gush, because I'm a huge horror fanatic, been a fan of horror movies since I was a little kid, and my first horror film was between Castle Freak, Phantasm, and the Texas Chain Saw Massacre Part 2, which happens to be my all-time favorite movie. I've been watching the film since I was 5 years old. Nobody will watch it with me because I have a tendency of reciting the film word for word, and that seems to annoy people. But I love it. I know the whole film front to back. It's got great characters. The storyline created by Kit Carson and Tobe Hooper was just beautiful.
Bubba's been playing with her. Bubba likes her. Bubba's got a girlfriend. 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 Bubba's got a girlfriend.
And it's ultimately the reason why Leatherface is my favorite horror icon. So this video is great for me because I've always wanted to talk about horror movies and do something along those lines, but I've never really had a channel for that kind of content, nor have I really had the time. But now that my favorite horror franchise has a brand new video game in the works, I can talk about it right here on GameSomniac, because it is now video game related content. Now I've waited a little bit before making this video because there's still not a lot of information out there on the game. Now naturally one could assume it's probably going to be the exact same game as Friday the 13th in concept, but the execution remains to be seen. Now, because there's not a lot of game info to talk about right now, I'm also going to include information regarding Netflix's new The Texas Chain Saw Massacre movie, set for release on February 18th, and explore how the two might be connected. So without further ado, let's get into it and check out Netflix's Texas Chain Saw Massacre. A new chainsaw film was announced earlier last year with the tagline that the face of madness would return in 2021. Well, 2021 came and went. There's no movie. I don't know. Maybe its flight got delayed, COVID restrictions, who knows. The movie was originally slated for release in October, but we were still dealing with the whole COVID situation. And while some movies were going straight to the streaming services, a lot of movies were sticking it out in hopes of returning to the theaters to get some of that sweet box office revenue. Now, sometime in 2021, advanced test screenings of the film took place, and one YouTuber, Mr. H Reviews, actually had someone on the inside go and check out the test screening and then report back to him with what they saw. And I won't go into great detail. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check out Mr. H Review's video for yourself, but the movie sucked. I mean, like, really bad. The whole film was essentially a propaganda piece against basically Texas in general, but more or less racism, gun violence, and school shootings. One character was confined to a wheelchair, which I originally thought was, the film paying homage to Franklin from the original 1974 film. However, it was later revealed that this character was wheelchair bound due to her being a victim of a school shooting. The characters in the movie were portrayed as hipster millennials looking to come in and revitalize this podunk Texas town with new business ventures that would ultimately serve as a safe place for a younger crowd. One scene that was described involved an orphanage displaying a Confederate flag, and most patrons of the town were depicted as carrying concealed weapons all over their persons. So the whole movie was basically alt-left social commentary against the right. Not to get political, but just to give you a general description of how the movie was being portrayed, that's really what it boiled down to. Now, after Mr. H Reviews spoiled the entire movie over livestream, production came out and said that the test screenings went great. The movie's doing well. Production's extremely excited. It's thriving. But then October 2021 comes to pass and there's no movie, and there's no word on the movie. Fans mounted a month-long manhunt but could not locate anything on the macabre film. No facts, no updates. Officially on the record, it's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre never happened. After months of silence, the internet was finally met with an update, one that would send any hope of this movie being good right out the window. It was announced that Netflix had acquired the title and would be releasing it exclusively. And since the announcement, we've been given a release date for the film as well as a teaser trailer, and looking at the teaser trailer, comparing it to the test screening leaks, it does seem to me like reshoots have taken place, which would also explain the movie's long absence. With the release date and teaser trailer also came an official movie synopsis, which was far different from anything that had come out on IMDb and Wikipedia upon the movie's initial announcement. Now, on one of my other YouTube channels, I did manage to make a video about the upcoming Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and I talked about the original synopsis, which at the time had included two main characters named Melody and Dreama. They were both sisters, and the focus of the movie was constantly switching back and forth between the two. Dreama was the character who was said to be presumably wheelchair-bound. Now, Dreama no longer exists, thank God. Her character sounded like a discredit to all Dreamas everywhere. Please let me know in the comments below if you or anyone you know is actually named Dreama, because I've never heard of that name like fucking ever. In the recent trailer that was released for the film, as well as a screenshot taken for the movie, it seems as though all characters now have a set of working legs, and there has not been any mention or reveal of a wheelchair-bound school shooting victim among the youths scheduled to meet Leatherface this February. As far as the new synopsis goes, it's pretty much the same as the original with some minor changes. Like I said, Dreama no longer seems to exist. We still have a young group of entrepreneurs who are going into this town to try to revitalize it and make it more of a safe space for potential future business investors. But the teaser trailer doesn't offer any of the finer details of the movie either. Now, one of the reasons why I believe reshoots had taken place was because in Mr. H Review's video leaking the whole movie on live stream, he spoke of a scene where Leatherface's mother was in an ambulance and he and his mother and one of the young girls, they were going to the hospital, and the mother ends up dying in the ambulance, which pisses off Leatherface, and he fucking kills everybody, flips the ambulance over, then he cuts off his mother's face and wears it throughout the movie. That's how he gets his mask. But in the teaser trailer, it looks like he's at his family farm, or it looks like he's at home. He doesn't look like he's near an ambulance or on a country road with a flipped over ambulance. Like, there's no signs of what was previously mentioned in the leaks, you know? So I feel like they have gone and taken this extra time to do reshoots and rework the whole movie. Okay, now after all that information, you must be asking yourself, does the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game by Gun Media have anything to do? Does it take anything from the new Netflix adaptation coming in February? No, it does not. You see, Gun Media only has the rights to the very first Texas Chainsaw Massacre film directed by Tobe Hooper and co-created by Kim Henkel. Because of this, the game cannot feature different versions of Leatherface like Friday the 13th was able to do with Jason. Now, as a way to work around this problem, Gun Media has sat down with Kim Henkel and designed new family members of the Sawyer clan to serve as additional killers alongside the inclusion of traditional members of the family. It was confirmed in a blog post on the game's official website that the devs wanted this new batch of family members to fit in seamlessly with the original. Thus, Kim Henkel was brought on board to help make these characters authentic and accurate to the source material. In an interview taken from comicbook.com, Ronnie Hobbs, creative director of Gun Interactive, stated that
it was quickly apparent that we would need additional family members in order to create the type of team-based multiplayer experience we were after. As interesting as the Cook, Hitchhiker, and Leatherface are, 3 killers simply wouldn't be enough to sustain the game for long periods of time. We needed more. Luckily, Kim Henkel came through again to help us solve this issue. Kim had several ideas for additional characters that never made it into the 1974 film, but ultimately he allowed us to create new Slaughter family members on our own. This level of trust meant the world to me. I knew each family member had to be unique and memorable, while at the same time looking like they belonged. To put it simply, they needed to stand out, but not in a negative way. While I can't discuss specific character details, I can say a considerable amount of time and work went into crafting each of the new killers. Each one took well over a year from start to finish, and it's an aspect of the game that myself and the team is quite proud of.
Keeping the authenticity of the original 1974 release seems to be non-negotiable with Gun Media, as they have also taken great care to create a soundtrack very much in the vein of Wayne Bell's compositions featured in the first film. Gun Media president and CEO Wes Keltner stepped up to the plate to see this vision was executed properly alongside Sumo Digital's team lead for sound, Ross Tregenza. Going into the sound development for the game, Wes knew of only one device that could provide the game with its authentic, unsettling, and powerful sounds of the macabre, a machine known as the Apprehension engine. Wes had this to say in regards to choosing the device.
I was listening to the soundtrack to The Witch, and I fell in love with the layers and textures present in every track. I had to find out how the composer did it. It didn't sound like a synthesizer produced the sound. It was different. It had sounds of found instruments and imperfect rhythms and cadences, ghostly knocks and scrapes that sounded more like special effects than traditional music. Upon further research, I discovered that the composer of the film, Mark Corvin, had a master luthier create an instrument specifically for him, an instrument unlike any before. The Apprehension engine was the device that created these nightmare sounds, and I wanted one. That led me to the door of master luthier Tony Dugan Smith. Once I described to him the sound I wanted, he began hand-making a custom Apprehension engine for this project.
It's been reported that West took the time, put in the hours to figure out every aspect of how it works to better understand the device, ultimately mastering the Apprehension engine, thus allowing him to produce the authentic sound the devs desired for the game.
Tony later connected me to Mark Corvin. I was able to pick Mark's brain for techniques on how to approach the instrument, and one piece of advice he gave me stuck with me, almost becoming my mantra. Corvin said, "Ignore all preconceived notions of music and music theory. Approach the instrument as a child. Simply start experimenting and you will find the sound." So I began that search, day after day, night after night, banging, hitting, plucking, and scraping. And buried deep in that contraption was the sound of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Now, I'm not sure how the mass majority felt about the Friday the 13th video game. I know there in the end there was just a lot of complaints that it just wasn't holding up to the other games like Dead by Daylight. And see, I'm an offline player. I don't pay money to Sony to play online, and I don't have a gaming computer, so I can't play online if I wanted to without paying, and that's just not gonna happen. So I'm more of an offline guy. So anytime I played the game, it was strictly offline, solo, single-player campaign mode. And then there's the simulated online play, which was limited to just playing as Jason and killing all the camp counselors. So I never got to experience the other side, which sucks. And I think that's one of my biggest complaints with Friday the 13th that I hope the devs are able to overcome with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I remember reading in an interview that they weren't able to create an AI for Jason that was smart enough to operate on its own. So offline players couldn't play camp counselors against Jason, only the other way around. Now maybe they can take a page from Capcom's Resident Evil 2 remake and develop the killers of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the same manner that Mr. X was designed, thus allowing offline play, not limited to killer versus survivors. But I'm kind of excited for the game, not just because it's Texas Chainsaw, my favorite horror IP of all time, but after playing the Terminator game developed by Teon, and now RoboCop has been announced by the same developer, there's a fucking Puppet Master game in the works. Like, this is just too cool, man, and I really think that these properties so far have been handled pretty well. Terminator Resistance was a great game. I mean, it was a little outdated, but it was a great game nonetheless, and I can't wait to see what they do with the RoboCop IP. And even the new Puppet Master game looks pretty fun. And Friday the 13th was fun while it lasted, and truthfully I feel like it would still be around today if Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller didn't fuck it up with their petty legal issues. I guess as far as the game goes, the only thing that I can complain about is that I wish they had more content from the other movies to work with. Unfortunately, they only have the rights to the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it sounds like they're not letting that stop them or limit them, and that's awesome to see that they're making the most out of what they have to work with. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be the same exact game as Friday the 13th, but do you think it's going to hold up better against games like Dead by Daylight than Friday the 13th did? So I'm excited for the game, I can't wait to see more and eventually play it, and I want to know what you think in the comments below. If you're excited for it, if you hate it, I really want to hear what you all think about the game and whether or not you're on board for more horror IP-based online multiplayer titles in the future. Let me know in the comments below. For all of your gaming, entertainment, news, and more, keep it locked right here at GameSomniac. Bye-bye!